Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today is Thursday. I'm working on Astrology Cat, which, as most of you know, is the Heaven and Earth Designs stitch along. I feel like I've got some really good progress. It's been about a week since I did a video and I thought, well, since I've got a little bit of time this morning, I can maybe just shoot another video. Wouldn't take me too long. And I've been working sort of in columns going down. I've also reached the end of the page. So where you see this edge is the end of the first page of the first quarter of the chart. That does sound a little bit confusing, but I think most of you know what I mean. So there's like 3 pages in this installment that we have for the first 3 months of the year. So I've basically finished the first page. Sorry, nearly finished the first page. And what's nice about this part is, oh, my thread's just come out there. What's nice about this part is that you do get a little bit of a reprieve from this crazy confetti by having a nice bit of blocky colour going on as well. Because there were some parts of this chart, mostly up here, when I thought that the brown, all that brown, would actually kill me. But nope, still here and still kicking away with my stitching. And I have been enjoying it in parts. Some points I sort of regretted maybe not doing full crosses. I'm just going to bring it slightly closer. Sort of regretted not doing tent stitch rather, because I started on full crosses and I tend to have a bit of a dilemma between whether I want to do full crosses or whether I want to do tent. And I know that I'm not the only one who has that kind of dilemma. Oh dear, am I going to be able to reach my scissors now? So I started off with full crosses using 1 strand because for me that seems to be the way I kind of like it on 22 count. I don't really see 22 count as being far different from 25 count, to be honest. The squares are a teeny bit larger than the 25 count, but more or less the same. But I just seem to be more comfortable doing a 1 strand full cross on 22 count than I do on the 25 count, which I find odd because there's really not a huge amount of difference. But it wasn't really that. I think it's I think it's mostly that I didn't really believe it for a good long while, but I think 10 stitch does actually go a little bit quicker than full cross. And it's not because I have any, massive intentions to like race along with this chart or to try to get it done, as quickly as possible. It wasn't really that. It just felt like I was getting progress better, more, faster progress than just doing these crosses. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter too much. I mean, it takes the time it takes and that's it really. What I can say about the 1 strand is it's much easier to thread than the 2 strands. So there is that. And I do like both methods actually. But this chart isn't a huge chart. So I think doing the full cross isn't such a burden. But I think when I'm sort of really glad when I do my large pieces that I had chosen tent, because, at some points, especially when you're doing blocky sections like this, it is slightly less tedious to do it in tent. It is actually quicker to do a big block area of 1 colour in tent than it is to do it in a full cross, obviously, because it's going to take you half the time when you're doing half the cross instead of the full cross. So I don't know why I used to think that it didn't make a difference, but I think I was sort of basing my opinion on all sorts of variables, such as how long how many times a week you stitch, how long you stitch for per session, how many stitches you do in a day, all that sort of thing. Obviously makes a difference. It's not just about the technique. It makes a difference how frequently you stitch, how long it takes you per second to do a stitch, all that sort of thing. You'd have to really sort of sit down and have it all tested, but I think that would be kind of virtually impossible to do. But anyway, we're getting somewhere, and it's nice to sort of hit a little milestone, like one page. Yeah, so this week I will come back in a few days and do a full update on everything I've been stitching on this month, because I haven't just been stitching on this lovely piece. I've been stitching on a couple of other pieces. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about my projects, and I've been thinking about obviously what sort of targets I have this year and what it is I want to achieve this year. But I've also been thinking about my introduction of a new chart, which I sort of wanted to start in January 2025. And I kind of made up my mind to start, not just me, but with a few other people, to start the free chart that Heaven and Earth designer Michelle had given away to everybody that's doing this particular stitch along. So she gave everyone a free chart, and it's called Sewing Lady in an Interior, something like that. And it looks like another chart. I think it's called Stitcher's Retreat, if I'm not mistaken. But it's not the same image. I've checked, and it's not the same image as that one. But it's similar. It's a lady sitting down at a desk or sitting in a chair, just doing a cross stitch or an embroidery or something. And I thought, this is lovely. It just really appeals to me. I love vintage kind of stuff. So I kind of decided I might start that one in January 2025. Now, obviously, the chart hasn't cost me anything. I don't have all the flosses. I do have fabric, but I don't have all the flosses. But obviously, I mean, seriously, I've got an entire year to get this thing together. So that was all settled in my head. I'm thinking, yep, that's great. I've got something planned way ahead that I can, by the time I get to start that one, I'll have finished this one, and I'll have finished another Haid that is now reached around 81%, which is fantastic. So being a mini, I've only got about 15,000 stitches left. So that's definitely going to be finished this year. Even if I go at it slowly, for my standards, it'll be finished this year. So that'll be 2 charts out of the bag. So by the time I get to January next year, I can introduce this new one. Then comes along a new release, which Michelle put out a few days ago, just a couple of days ago. And honestly, my heart just skipped a beat. It's just the most beautiful scene. I don't know, I'm not particularly sure what the style of it's like a scenery of buildings all across the page in some kind of beautiful moonlight harbour, and the colours are gorgeous. Sort of looks a bit Norwegian or something to me. Anyway, I just fell in love with it, and then I thought, oh no, I can't do this one and the other one both. I can't cope with 2 of them. They're just, the other one's big enough. I think it's already big, although I had the Sewing Lady's large, but I had thought to crop some of the top area anyway. This one's even bigger. This one's at something like 700 by 500 or 400 stitches, not 100% sure. So it's big. It's another, between 300 to 400,000 stitches. So it's just as big as my Riverwalk charm, which is taking me forever to do. But now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it, if you know what I mean. It's just there in the back of my mind, and I'm thinking, okay, so should I just put them to rest at the moment and see how I feel at the end of the year? Because I mean, I'm absolutely not going to start anything new until I get these challenges finished. And then when I get to the end of the year, say November, I can, decide then, make a proper decision. Because I don't want to mess other people around or let people down if they've wanted to join me with the sewing lady or that kind of thing. But then it is a big investment in time if it's not really what you want to be doing. So just your opinions. What would you do if you saw 2 charts that you really loved but you didn't want to do both of them? Now, I was thinking, what if I toss a coin and whichever the answer is, if I'm disappointed by that result, then I know for sure which one. I've got a sneaky feeling that I like the new one called Happy Village a lot more. Well, maybe not a lot more, but a little bit more than the sewing lady. It's just something about it that's a bit more magical. So I don't know. I really don't know. So yeah, let me know what you think. I was thinking, what if I just pick, say for instance, I pick the Happy Village, for instance, and I pick my Riverwalk charm, which will be probably about 50% by the end of the year, which is my goal, to get to 50% on that chart by the end of this year. So I could work on the 2 alternatively as 2 focus pieces for 2025. And then when Riverwalk charm gets a bit closer to the 100%, I can introduce the sewing lady. Or vice versa, I can start the sewing lady and when the Riverwalk charm, and just work on it with the Riverwalk charm alternatively. And I really mean just main focus pieces, as in I may not work much on anything else, if at all, just to get a good amount done. And then I'll still be getting Riverwalk charm worked on to a good degree. Those would be 2 big pieces as main focuses for 2025. I don't know. That seems like an option. It just seems like an option. So yeah, your thoughts, how you might approach it, would be interesting. Because the other ones that I have, the other projects that I have, that are still sort of in the picture, I'm not in any hurry. For some reason, I don't know. They just seem to be like Sleeping Beauty. They want to stay there for another 100 years. No, I just seem to feel like stitching on focus, things that I've chosen to stitch on, focus pieces that I'm picking. And I've I'll talk more about what I've chosen as goals and stitch counts and all the rest of it in my upcoming video. I'm not going to say it all here because then I'll have nothing to say to tell you in my update video. So when I get to do that, I'll explain sort of the method I've got going at the moment and how many stitches I've allocated per month for each of my whips, including this one. So yeah, this one's coming along nicely. Oh, I've already done that. No, I haven't done that row. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Don't know how I can get lost just doing rows of black, but I can, apparently. Trying to figure out which ones I've marked off, because sometimes I mark off a row ahead of having stitched it, or I don't mark it off and I've already stitched it, and that just confuses me for a couple of seconds. Yeah, I haven't. So I've already marked off this row that I'm doing now, which I shouldn't have done because I haven't done it yet. Isn't that silly of me? Anyway, there's not much else news to report. I have been working on this one daily. I've been averaging about 200 stitches a day. Doesn't seem like a lot of stitches, but when you're doing crosses and there's a lot of confetti like here, it just does seem to take ages, and it certainly takes me a lot longer than 2 hours to do a couple of hundred stitches, say around this area. And it's all the changing colours, changing threads. But I'm happy I've stuck with this method that I'm doing and haven't gone a bit crazy cross country, because the crazy cross country does go a bit loopy if I don't have a grid, and this seems to me a lot of a safer bet. Slowly and steadily, not necessarily row by row, because as you can see here, I'm not exactly doing row by row. I've been just sort of working. You can say cross country within just going down and doing a few stitches down and parking, and then getting the next colour up here and doing a few stitches down and then parking and then a few stitches down, but not necessarily in a snaking sequence. Just basically what makes sense to me and how I feel about the symbols. And because it's quite confetti here, it's much easier to just actually do the rows, because then you don't make mistakes, and you know, all the little ninjas that are going across there get done as you go. But when it's like only 2 or 3 colours in a whole area, you just, you know, maybe do one colour at a time, but always sticking within the 10 by 10, more or less. That's normally how it goes. Yeah, so 200 a day can actually take ages. I'm not kidding. And for the most part, I haven't had a problem with doing it. I've been doing it either first thing in the morning after breakfast or really late at night. And I've wanted to get work on other whips done as well. So I've picked this one daily and then one other project to work on as well. And that's how I've kind of been building up the stitch counts for the other ones as well. There's only like 2 that I'm working on aside from this. And I think that's enough. That's enough for me, because I'm also started a new crochet project, which is like a mosaic crochet throw or blanket. And I picked up a free pattern from Yarnspirations. And yeah, maybe I'll show that as well in my update video. Isn't it irritating when your thread comes out right near the end of your stitching of your colour? So yeah, I'll show that in my next update, and I've wanted to give a little bit of time for that as well, because I haven't actually done mosaic crochet before, so it did need a little bit of focus and thought and planning out and what have you. So yeah, between that and this one and picking one of the other projects, I've had pretty much enough enough to do in a single day. So yeah, I don't really want to bog myself down with hundreds of rotational things, because that would just be crazy. Would I be able to get this? I don't like playing thread chicken. Is that what you call it? I'm wondering now if this thread can get to the end. I don't think I can do it, because my needle's quite long. And you need a little bit of length to be able to get that needle up and down. Yeah, I think I'm about done here. Eee. She says that, and then she carries on stitching. Oh, sometimes you just have to see, right? You just have to see whether it was possible or not. Oh no, I've got like the teeniest bit of thread left. I think I can do it. I think I can do it. My goodness, can I get that last leg? I think that would be the very last stitch I can do. And I'm gonna, that's how I'm just gonna end my tail down there. If anybody's interested. I know some people do pin stitches and stuff, but all I do is literally pass it through the middle of the square and snip, leave a teeny tiny tail. That has never posed as a problem to me. I've looked behind and seen that it's all covered at the back. So we're still on the black, I'm going to do a little bit more of the black so that I can kind of at least come down to about here and make that squared off a little bit. So on to what's been happening in Scotland. Well, we've had a raging storm. Actually, we've had more than one raging storm. We've had 2 raging storms in at least the last 4 days, which have been absolutely frightening. It has been crazy, and the thing with that is that we have a chimney right here in the living room, and when that wind goes crazy, it rumbles right down the chimney. It howls, it roars, and it sounds like, I don't know, just like there's a demon gonna pop its head out from from the chimney, and it's a little bit terrifying, to be honest. And yeah, and then the roof sounds like it's going to blow off. So there was talk about tornadoes and stuff, and I wasn't 100% sure that was just, people getting carried away with themselves. But I didn't see any evidence of any tornadoes or anything. And I didn't hear anything else about it. Apparently there was one that was heading this way or going past or swirling around. I don't know. But yeah, for us here, for me at least, in the city, it was a crazy amount of gusty winds. I think it was 100 miles per hour. And there was no way I was going to go outside in that. So that's what it's been like for the last few days. So there was sort of batten down the hatches and sit and hope for the best. And I didn't see any real damage, but obviously there's going to be trees that have come down in certain places, and the trains stopped running completely. And it must have been worse for people a bit further out in the borders, what they call the borders, further into the country where they've got a lot of trees and things that can potentially fall into their roofs. Of course, living in an apartment block generally isn't quite as bad, but being on a top floor is noisy because the wind is worse higher up. And yeah, it was a bit scary for a while. It's hard to sleep when you're listening to that racket, and it's actually scary. Really does sort of put you in your place when you see how wild nature can be and how much it could actually just harm you if it wanted to. But today it's fairly quiet. It's raining. It's a bit cloudy. Tiny bit of sunlight trying its best to get through, but not really succeeding. I feel like I'm giving a weather report here. But it's nowhere near as bad as it was. So I went out yesterday, and yesterday was fine. It was a little bit gusty down the street, but apart from that, and I went out for coffee, and then I had done a little bit of grocery shopping, and was reading a book as well, and having a chat to a few people. And it was pleasant enough. It was okay to go out. You kind of have to stick your finger out the window to check which way the wind's blowing and how bad it is. And then you make your decisions based upon that as to whether you're going to brave the outdoors or not. I know that people have had harsher experiences in other countries and floodings and whatnot. It must be totally devastating for so many people to have their homes, damaged in ways that for some can be irreparable. It's really sad. But, stuff happens everywhere. We had a leak in our bedroom and a lot of damp on a wall, and we had to try to get, survey and God knows what else to try and get someone to come and fix it. And then they didn't know what the problem was, and then they did know what the problem was, and then it wasn't the same problem. And it's just, sometimes it's just a pain just to try and get something fixed, or to find out what the root cause of it is. Or thankfully that's all sorted out now. But there was a last December, we're pretty much sleeping in a damp room, and it just made everything cold and icy. You just couldn't get warm. It's not particularly good for you. So glad that's all gone. I don't particularly suffer with chesty ailments, which is just as well. I do get sinus stuff going on, but my chest is usually pretty strong and clear. I rarely suffer from chesty infections and things. But what I do get is like sinus pressure. So if there's low pressure outside, I can literally feel my sinuses start to hurt, which is really weird. Like honestly, in the switch of a button, I can feel my face starting to hurt when the weather changes. It's just weird. It really is a bit weird. I don't want to overdo the black here and just keep going. Oh dear, I don't know if you can hear it, but my cat is in her litter tray, and she just doesn't seem to know how to use the litter tray. She knows where to do her thing, but she doesn't know how to scratch the litter. She'll do her thing, and then she'll scratch the box, all sides of the box. Does anybody else have a cat that does that? Because if you do, and it's not because she doesn't have enough litter, but she has plenty of litter, and she's quite happy with her litter too, because she's got no problems going in to do her bits. But for some reason, she likes to scratch the entire box inside, and she'd just do that for ages. So she's either being particularly careful about covering her doodahs, or she's just stupid. I'm not sure which. Bit like a dog I used to have. He used to bury his bone on our tiled kitchen floor. And by bury, I mean like do the whole, scratching at the soil to cover it up. Of course, there's no soil, it's just a tile. But he used to think that he was burying it, so it was good enough for him. And then he'd walk off all happy that his bone couldn't be seen. And there it was, lying on the tile. So that was just hilarious. So it's kind of like that. Cats can be so funny. They really can. I feel like I'm slowing down now, but I'm probably not. It's just that I'm talking and not paying attention. But yeah, I'm still working on the right place. I haven't gone overboard, because somewhere down here is the end of all this 310. And I've seen some people have finished all 3 pages, which is fantastic for them. But now they have to wait until April, isn't it? 1st of April to get the next installment. I think that would drive me a bit nuts if I had to sit there for 2 months waiting to carry on. I think I'd rather be very close to finishing my installment just about when I get the next one. So I don't feel like, come on already, that kind of thing. Although you can, like they probably are, going on to other projects and working on them. But I do feel like, for me, I would like to have my chart when I want to be stitching it, not kind of be waiting on it type of thing. So that's why I'm sort of allocating page a month so far, because like we're at the end of January and I've nearly finished page 1. So I'm assuming in February I'll have nearly finished page 2 and so on. that would kind of work for me. Looking out the window now, actually, it threatens to actually get a bit stormy again. I mean, it's gone really dark all of a sudden, which is not a good sign. Yeah, so not really much else news, just really me driving myself a bit crackers about the new chart that's come out on the Heaven and Earth Design website. One of the new releases, there's been a couple of them. That always happens though, doesn't it? You get your heart set on one and you think, oh, I'm going to start that one in a certain period of time. And you think about getting your flosses and that, and then just before you get to start that one, or maybe for some people, this is true. For some people, they already start their chart and they've like done, I don't know, a couple of thousand stitches. And then out comes and pops a new chart that they love. They absolutely love, maybe even more. And they just think, dang, why didn't that one come out before? Isn't that Sod's Law? Is that what they call it? Sod's Law. Yeah. Tries to get us every time. So maybe it's just as well I'd given myself a whole year, because God forbid another chart could come out between now and then I'd be like trying to choose between 3 or 4 of them. Oh, dear me. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has that particular issue. And please don't say start all of them, because I just cannot start all of them. I really like to have enough time to see progress, or some decent amount of progress. I can't do this sort of like, 1 hour a month or 2 hours a month on a project kind of thing. I feel like that's just going to take too long for my liking. I like to see that I can work on something most days, if not every day, most days, and definitely every week. Because now you see what happens is it all catches up on you when you've got so many. There's some that you can't get to at all that you wish you could. And there's some people who've got their routines which work fine for them. But that way, like even now, I'm like, I do want to get back to some of the older ones, but just not yet. And that's the thing, when you start having too many of them, you just can't get back to them all. And then you start new ones like that. And then you're even further away from getting back to the older ones, which just seem to be getting older and older. Oh dear. If you didn't laugh, if you didn't cry, you could laugh, you could cry. It's crazy. Right, so I'm going to do 2 more rows here of black. Actually, I think maybe I can come down to here with this. And then we can just kind of square it off together. I like how this planet came out. It's quite interesting. It does look very sort of 3D, doesn't it? The way it's been done. Okay, Misty, what's the matter? Have you seen something you don't like outside the window? She just grumbles at people who walk past. She has a go at them. It's a good job that we're pretty high up and they can't see her, or they can't really see her from down below. She's like a real busybody at the window. Aren't you, Misty? People are allowed to walk past the house, It's not a crime. And she talks to the flies as well. If there's flies that land on the window, that'll drive her crazy. They're just not allowed. They're not allowed to go near the window. She sees a fly land on the window, she go crazy. Makes some kind of weird chattering noise and bats at the window with her paws, and causes real commotion. They are just not allowed. Right, so I've really enjoyed this session today. It's been nice and pleasant. I do need to get off and get myself another hot coffee or a hot cup of tea. I feel like I've sort of caught a little bit of the cold that my son has had this week. He's been off school with a cold, and I feel like I've caught a dose from him because my nose is blocked and the back of my nose is blocked, and yeah, I just got that croaky thing going on. So excuse me for that if I do sound a bit croaky, but not too bad. Just hopefully it stays where it does and then goes away and doesn't sort of develop into anything else, because I just came back from the most horrific cold over Christmas and I don't want to have another one so soon after Christmas. So yeah, but I mean, if he catches things in school, he brings them home and gives them straight to me like gifts. Honestly, every single time I've had cold after cold and stuff, which he just hands me on a plate from school. So yeah, there's just no getting away from it, because it just, even if I don't leave my house ever, things will come, he will bring stuff into the, into the house. It's just pretty annoying. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna develop into anything worse. But yeah, it's a bit irritating. So I think that's going to be me done for this morning's session. It's nice to catch up with you again, and yeah, let me know what you think about the whole chart business. What would you do if you had planned to start one, and then another one came along that you like, that you're not sure if you like just a bit too much? And you can't stop thinking about it, or oh gosh, you see, because I like them both, that's the problem. I've put a picture up here somewhere in this video to show you both of them side by side, and I know that we all have different tastes, but if it was two charts that you really liked, what would you do? Especially if you've got all your other projects as well that you have on the go. I'm just interested to know what you think. So with that, I wish you a very good weekend ahead, and I'll see you again when I come back with my progress whip update, which will be very soon. So until then, take care. Goodbye. God bless.